I'm a corporate lawyer and do principally mergers and acquisitions. The reason I chose that area was initially for very practical reasons. All through law school, I had a very open mind about doing whether it be corporate, litigation, other practice areas. But my very first job was at a New York City law firm. And in the United States, unlike large Canadian law firms, there's no articling, there's no opportunity to do a rotation, to sample different areas. So I had to choose right away on day one. And despite having an interest in many areas, I chose corporate because at the time, knowing that I want to return to Canada 4 or 5 years later, which I ended up doing, of course, I thought that corporate law was probably the most jurisdictionally portable or transferable practice area. So I chose it for these practical reasons, and stuck with it because I thoroughly enjoyed it since then. What I value most about my mergers and acquisition practice is the great variety of the transactions on which I get to work. In any given year, I get to work on a number of different deals involving numerous clients in numerous different industries with a deal structure quite different from deal to deal. Some cross-border, others domestic, and with purchase prices ranging from sometimes just a handful of millions to a few $billions. So there's a huge variety. In addition to that, almost every M&A transaction allows me to work with a wide variety of my colleagues at my firm who work across a bunch of different specialty areas. So I guess it would be the variety of the practice which keeps it most interesting for me. I would say that the pinnacle, or at least the highlight of my career so far, has been making partner at my law firm. Making partner is an important milestone because it's a vote of confidence, a recognition by those who professionally know you better than anyone else in the world. It's also an expression of a very deep sense of trust between your partners or your future partners and you. And therefore, for me, that's been the most significant element of my practice to date. The best piece of advice I've ever received from a colleague happens to come from Sam Butler, who's regarded by many as one of the great corporate lawyers in the United States of the 20th century. I was a first-year associate at my firm at Cravath and had the opportunity to work on the sale of a century-old U.S. public company. This client had been a client of the firm's and of Sam Butler for decades and decades. And at the closing of the transaction, Sam, who was actually retiring as a partner that year, explained to me why the client remained so very loyal to the firm over all these decades. And he told me that having good bedside manners is as important to a lawyer as it is to a doctor. And that's something I've certainly kept in mind since then. I happen to volunteer my time on a good number of boards for charities, foundations, and other not-for-profit organizations. And the work's important to me because each and every one of those are causes about which I care very deeply. I can think of one in particular, my old high school in Montreal, Loyola High School, which has had for many decades had a completely needs-blind admission policy. That is, all decisions about admitting students are based entirely on merit without taking into consideration the financial ability of the families to pay. Once students are admitted, the school provides enough financial assistance for each and every family whose son, it's a boys' school, whose son got in to afford. So working on the foundation as the chair of the foundation of the school, managing the endowment of the school, helping to raise more monies, enables me and my fellow board members to give other young Montrealers the same educational opportunities that I benefited from.